Educational Insights, a Slate Valley unified podcast. Hosted by Superintendent Brooke Olsen-Farrell. Episode number 18, Slate Valley Community Perspectives, Part 1.
Hello, and welcome to Slate Valley's Educational Insights podcast, where we connect with people who make our district special and talk openly about what matters most to our schools and communities. I'm Brooke Olsen-Farrell, Superintendent of Slate Valley Unified Union School District, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Today's episode is all about community perspectives, how our schools are doing, what's working well, and where we can continue to grow together. With the FY27 budget in development and the uncertainty of the first stage of Act 73, redistricting, it is more important than ever that we listen, learn, and understand what's on the minds of our families, neighbors, and friends across the district. I'm joined today by Fairhaven resident Roseanne Van Loo and Castleton resident Bob Crowley, two active members of our community who bring valuable insights and experiences to the conversations. And along with them is our Director of Curriculum, Casey O'Mara. So to start the conversation, could each of you tell us a bit about your connection to the Slate Valley community and whether that's as a parent, local resident, or community partner? And Roseanne, we'll start with you.
Well, I guess I'm an old parent. My daughter graduated in 2024, but I've tried to stay active even throughout her time here, and I've figured no sense in stopping while I'm ahead, so here I am.
All right. How about you, Bob?
Well, I had three boys that went through the system when it was the Fairhaven Union. They started in Orwell, came through, went through the high school, and got a great foundation of an education here. Now I have two granddaughters that are in the system, and I'm also looking at the system from a new perspective. I'm a retiree on a fixed income, but very cognizant of how my property tax dollars are being spent.
And Casey, what do you do here at our system?
So as the Director of Curriculum, I oversee what it is we have for students to do in classrooms and try to make certain that, across our schools, students are practicing a variety of skills from reading and math and science and social studies, critical thinking, but then also thinking about how those skills might apply in settings outside of the school when they eventually move through our system and then graduate. And I would say Rose and I met probably in my first few months here. As an active parent, she was curious about some of the grading practices we were using, and we specifically talked about experiences her daughter was having at Fairhaven Grade School. And then Bob, as a grandparent, I met his granddaughter, his oldest, I believe, in a trip that she was involved with, kind of applying some skills she was developing in woodworking. And so I would say in my role, connecting with community members and students and the like is part of what I do.
Great. So Bob, let's start with you. From your perspective, how do you feel the district is doing overall? Is there anything in particular you'd like to discuss or comment on?
Well, the two things that are really evident to me is that with all the challenges of education in the state, that Slate Valley provides a solid K through 12 education with very limited resources. And with the stress of trying to do what you do with the limited resources, I'm really impressed with the employee commitment from the superintendent all the way down to the maintenance staff, in all the schools. It's really something outstanding.
Great to hear. Roseanne, what about you?
Well, I gotta think perspective is so important. And the taxpayers, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the taxpayers are not seeing the return on investment that they want to see. When they go to Shaw's, or they go to Walmart, and these kids cannot make change. Or even if the register is telling them what change to make, they are so confused, and God forbid that you throw some change into your payment so that you get just dollar bills back. Deer in the headlights. There's grammar is horrible. Now, if I'm talking about my daughter, her grammar is horrible, but that's because she does it on purpose just to annoy me. She knows how to speak well. It's just she does it to annoy me. But there's an awful lot of kids that really don't know how to speak proper, speak well. They have no interest in history. It's and so much of this comes right out to the people, and the perspective. So that perspective is that we're not getting a good return on investment. But as I go to the school board meetings, as I've gone to these community action meetings, I'm learning a lot more about the behind the scenes. And Bob made a really good point. Our staff is very dedicated. And, there are some things that I really don't like, but you guys have no control over. Mm-hmm. One of those things, I had gone to a school board meeting 8 months ago.
Yeah, last fall. I would say it's last fall.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
And two of the teachers from Fairhaven Grade School had done a presentation about this standardized test called Cognia. And they had brought sample questions, and I was absolutely appalled because these questions I think one of the questions was something similar to 50 plus 30 equals 80. Explain how we would get to that answer. Mm-hmm. Is it 3rd, 5th, and 8th graders, right?
I think we were looking, those were the release tests. Yeah, we had access to a 3rd grade test, a 5th grade test, and an 8th grade test.
Okay,
yep.
So they are given to all grades each year?
Starting in 3rd grade, it's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th take reading,
right,
literacy, and math. And then grades 5, 8, and 11, they take science.
Okay, so this test is expecting kids in 3rd grade. That's what, 7, 8 years old?
Roughly.
About
yep.
that? Okay.
Yep.
They want these 7 and 8 year olds to think analytically. What are you, nuts? I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. And because this test is so absolutely ill-conceived, it is basically forcing the teachers to teach to this test, to teach these kids how to try to figure out how to answer the questions. Well, in the meantime, it's forcing them to ignore teaching the basics. And anybody knows if you don't have a strong foundation, you're not going to go anywhere. Everything you build on top of that is going to fall apart. And I really believe that's a big part of what's been happening lately. When did they start the Cognia tests?
Well, it was when before that it was a different test, but it's basically it was the same test. So 2000.
No Child Left Behind, right?
Because before that was kneecap.
Yep. So we've always had an assessment that's been given, but it's gone through different iterations of
and aligned to different standards.
Right. How complex the questions would be and those sorts of things. So it's changed over time.
I actually don't have a problem with a standardized test. I mean, when I was in school, we took the CAT test.
Yeah, we all.
I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with this particular test because it's not testing their knowledge. It's not testing what they've learned with these basics that they were supposed to learn, because the teachers have not been able to teach them 50 plus 30 equals 80. They're having to teach them to look at the question and then, okay, so it's a plus sign. So this way we're going to take 10 plus 10 plus 10 and eventually and come up with this answer. It's ridiculous. I didn't start analytical thinking till I was in college. Seriously, I'm very, very serious about that. And we should not be trying to make these kids farther.
Well, I think we're measuring different things. And right now, a lot that's been in the news is, the NAEP testing. But I think some of the stuff that hasn't been talked about with the NAEP testing and the decline in the NAEP scores, our kids can voluntarily opt out of it now on the day that we offer it. So we do have kids that opt out of it. So that also skews the results. So, I think we really need to be comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. And in some cases, we're not always doing that.
I'm just looking at results.
Right.
Yeah,
but to compare one year to another, from the community's perspective, it's not the test that we all took when we were in school.
That's
right?
my point.
And I think that's a misnomer. Like, people think it's the test that we all took. It's not. It's very different.
It's very different, and it's very, like I said, it's ill-conceived. And if the Secretary of Education is listening or paying any attention, she really needs to get rid of it.
To go off of just what you're just saying, if folks are really interested in learning more about the Cognia assessment, we will have a link online connected to this podcast where you can go and explore those resources a bit more. But also at our next board meeting on November 24th, we're going to dive a little deeper with the school board and the community into some of those questions that are being asked of our students.
And that's at the regular time, 6:30.
6:30. And I believe
and
we're
it's here.
We are here, yes, 6:30 here at Fairhaven Union Middle High School. Well, thank you so much, Roseanne and Bob, for sharing your thoughts, and Casey too. We always appreciate the honest feedback. Conversations like this are what help us grow stronger as a district. As always, you can find the latest budget details, board meeting dates, and news on our Slate Valley website and social media pages. For our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in and being part of our community. Until next time, Slate Valley.
Be sure to come back for part 2, where we'll continue exploring community insights with Bob and Roseanne. Slate Valley Unified Union School District, November 4, 2025.